to SRL. Season 8 is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fantastic weekend of Formula One racing here on the EGL Extreme Gaming League. I'm Tipsy Bob, and joining me on the mic is my trusty sidekick and my good friend, Dad Bance. Covering all the action today, we're going to be covering everywhere from Monaco, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and Bahrain, all across the world, all across the country. A full grid lined up some of the best talent around the world. We have plucked them from all corners of the earth to give you some of the greatest racing experience viewing footage you'll ever see in your lifetime. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the EGL. There we go. Once all the cars are all lining up on the grid, they're all getting ready. The drivers will be focusing on their first corner. Are they going to take it? What are they going to do? Is they going to go deep? Are they going to go? Who knows? Let's take it out and away we go! DRS is still active, and if Timo wants to get this moved on, he's gonna need to use this DRS zone because I have a feeling. Oh no, Timo, cancel the crusher in the traction zone. I pressed command up and another overtake on 1.3 trademark. This is round 3.
And Timo, our coach. Oh, it's the pit! Oh no! Oh my god, this so sorry, control myself. So Timo.
So what we gotta do so they can start at the back together again, just like Timo likes it.
How many times? Did you see how many times Timo tried to get into the pit?
Alright, welcome everyone to SLR Tier 1 around the Circuit of the Americas. As I will quickly get everything up that we need to have up, and we will be ready to go. Now, I currently don't have a co-commentator with me yet, but he will join in just a second, I believe. So we will have a co-commentator in just a bit. And that's gonna be Mr. Oster, aka Owen. But we have the first cars out on track, and I think that's Dane the Dangerous who's leading in the Williams. Oh god, I didn't change my POV. That's yikes. And he will be starting his lap soon as he's in sector 3. I think the back will start to back up now as Bans is lifting off, making a bit of a gap. Because there will be a sector 3 yellow flag put on by the game. But Dane is now about to start his hot lap on the long uphill straight. Let's go on board with him. And he will start braking right around the black marker board on the right. Trying to hit the apex, which he does. Flying into turn 1 towards the S's now. Very difficult section, especially in the race. On the harder tire compounds, which will have much less grip than now. Of course, the drivers will just be setting bankers now. Just laps to know how their pace is going to be and to improve on. Dane is now flying towards the DRS detection zone, not invalidating on the outside there, which is a very common place to invalidate. Going into sector 2 now. Sector 2 pretty much a straight and a few corners. Like 2 corners to be honest, to be exact. Now Bans is quite close behind him, so he will get a little bit of the slipstream, but it shouldn't be that much. Sector 3, very technical, very difficult sector. Especially I think it's a 2 apex corner, 3 apex corner, right here. Which you really have to stick close to the inside. It's very hard to follow here. Now flying down towards the last corner, what will his banker time be? Oh, he goes off track, doesn't invalidate, which is lucky. He goes with a 130.8, Bans with a 130.9. Behind him is, I think, Neff with 130.0. The next up is gonna be Rafondes, who's gonna go with a validated lap. Then it's gonna be Neckmeister, who goes with 130.1. Now, Jonathan Chen, aka Chenjay, goes P1 with a 129.4. So he's currently on pole by 6/10. But let's see what Vexit is gonna do. Well, Vexit invalidated, so that's unfortunate for him. He did probably get a lap in, which means he will get the delta on the next lap. Now Larson is about to start his lap, so let's look at his lap. Ah no, we have the bug, the fastest lap at the bottom. You'll love to see it. If I do this, doesn't make it go away. It refreshes it at least. Alright, let's see how Larson is gonna do. Hitting the apex of the first corner. Into the S's. Keeps it within track limits. This corner is very difficult because you can get a very loose rear end on the exit, which can cause you to invalidate, but he keeps it nice and clean through there. Now onto the back straight. Very long straight. This is one of the overtaking opportunities on this track. Of course, this track, very high arrow for sector 1 and sector 3. Well, not very high, but pretty high arrow. It looks like most of the drivers are taking it quite safe, just to get a lap in for now. And from there on, try to improve. Now let me pull up the track map on my phone real quick, because I want to know these corner numbers. This is gonna be Kota track map. Alright. So Larson has set a 130.9 as his bank lap. Is anyone else on a hot lap is what I want to know. Tipsy isn't. Vance is just coming out. Let's see the Mercedes. That's Copy. He's gonna go in. Red Bull. It might be Justin, I think. Justin is gonna go in as well, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he doesn't have any fuel. So the first car on track would be Larson, then it would be Band, who is on his outlap. All the drivers selecting the soft tire compound, if I'm correct. Let's see. Yes, everyone is on the softs. I wonder if we will have people qualifying on the mediums, because I think the strategy here is a soft medium. Soft hard could be an option, depends if there will be an early safety car. This camera angle is interesting, I haven't seen that before. But Band's now going into sector 3 on his outlap, about to start in the BWT Racing Point, which is now the Aston Martin, of course. It's a real shame, in my opinion, to see the pink car go. 'Cause I think it's one of the best liveries of the season. But Band's about to start his lap now. Little bit of fuel spin on the exit, but very stable. And now starting his outlap, flying down towards turn 1. Really stunning corner this. Braking uphill. A little bit of a luck up left front, I believe. Because I'm going to overshoot the apex a bit, so he will be down on his time. But he has loads of time to improve. Now going into sector 2. The uphill SS section. Does he invalidate? No, he doesn't. Keep so within track limits. Flying down towards the hairpin, going onto the straight. I'm trying to plug in my headset because my headset is about to die. Which will be suboptimal. Keep it at that. So I'm just gonna do that real quick, as Band is now going into sector 3 with not an improvement, but he's only half a tenth down. So he can still improve in sector 3. Wheel spin, so that will be a abandoned lap. He lost a lot of time there. I don't think he will continue this lap. I think he will just jump into the pits. So we will go on board with Chenjay, who's just started his lap. Going down to turn 1, our current pole sitter. Will he be able to improve on the lap? Let's put out the gap and see how will he improve in sector 1. Will he even improve in sector 1? He improved by a 10 with Tipsy going out of the way nicely. Letting Chenjay go. Keeps it very stable through there. Keeps it very stable. Kamala Harris left the session, aka Neff. I hope he will have an invite from someone on the grid. Now Chenjay opening his DRS wing, flying down towards the end of sector 2 pretty much. Of turn 12. Now into sector 3, how much is he up? He's up by 2/10 so with a purple middle sector. Vexed now setting at 129.1. Very, very competitive time, puts him on pole. Oh, Chenjay a bit slidey on the exit, but keeps within track limits. Very hard corner that to get your power down. Now in turn 13, down to 14. This is also a very difficult corner, because it's blind up until you're on the apex. Now last corner, will he improve? Will he get pole? He does not go pole, he's behind Vexed by a 10th. But still very competitive time. I think that's Danny on lap. No, Danny is not on lap. Danny just finished in P3 currently. So who is the other Ferrari? That's Timo, who is about to cross the line. Goes P8. Let's see, the fastest lap with a 130.3. Who else is on a hot lap? Maybe Pixel. No, Pixel's not on a hot lap. So that's Tipsy Wob in sector 1, who is on his hot lap. Passing Danico, lifting a bit. I think he is taking it quite safe. Doesn't want to invalidate. Just wants to improve on his time of 131.3. Heading down towards the hairpin. Bit too quick on the exit. Decides to abandon the lap. Turning his ERS down. Charging his battery. And Fontes goes into the pits. Let's see, is there anyone on a lap? I think Copy might be... No, Copy has invalidated. And Neff, who is... I don't know if he's in the game. I think he is, because he invalidated. Let's actually see if Tipsy goes for another lap. Tipsy is recharging. He does have enough fuel. Barely, but he does. Will he go for another lap or will he dive into the pits? That's what I want to know. He dives into the pits, so he does not go for another lap. He will change his tires and then go for it. Now Bans in Sector 2, who is on a hot lap, the other racing point. Bit squealy on the exit, but keeps it within track limits. Into the hairpin. You really want to carry as much speed as you can through there. Get it all onto the straight. Opening the DRS. This is a very long straight. It really is. With a slight curve in it. Slight curve. Oh, locking up his left front. But it doesn't matter because he made the corner. Really hard to get your power down here as well. Taking the wide line. Hitting the apex very well. Keeps it stable this time. A little bit of wheel spin, but keeps it stable. Hogging the inside, hitting all the apexes. Now here you can see it's blind, and now you see the exit. Oh, he goes on track and it's invalidated. A bit too much speed for there. That corner is really unforgiving. It's really, really difficult. Now Neff is on his hot lap. Brilliant F1 30.0. Will he be able to improve that? As Mr. Oster just joined. Welcome. Co-commentator has arrived.
I do apologise. Can't let the roast get cold, you know what I mean?
We still have 4 minutes left in qualifying, so as long as you're here for the race, that's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
But on board with Neff, who's 3/10 up, because purple in Sector 2. How much will he be able to improve in Sector 3? That's what I want to know. Hitting all the apexes in turn 12 and 13. Now into the blind corner of 14. Keeping it within track limits, just barely. And what time will it be? It will be a 1:29.5, which puts him in P3 currently. Jumping Danico by less than 300s. Or a bit more than 300 actually. Who else is on the lap? I think Pixel is on the lap. Pixel is on the lap. Currently entering Sector 2, 1.5 tenths up. So he is currently able to jump Bans and Larson for P10. But he has a lot of track to improve on. Past the hairpin.
Is it a full grid?
We have 15 drivers, so not
Okay.
a full grid. But quite a decent amount of people, I would say.
I've asked one of the drivers to invite me, it won't let me join.
Do I have you on my friends list?
I don't think so.
I posted my friends code in Tier 1 chat.
Mm.
Oh, there's a yellow flag in Sector 3. Someone has crashed. That's Neff. Or he's just letting everyone past. Oh, Pixel invalidated. That's a weird spot to invalidate. I think he invalidated on the run-up to turn 14. That would have been a 130.5, which would have gotten him P10. That's an interesting spot to invalidate. Neckmeister is on the invalidated lap. Justin is just starting his hot lap. In turn 1. He's currently P5 with 129.6. So will he be able to improve on that? Keeps it nice and tight. He isn't down by much, he's only down by 200th of a second. Now Pixel goes out of his way, doesn't give him the dirty air, but doesn't give him the slipstream on the main straight. Now keeps it nice and tidy through there, hits the apex, and goes onto the long straight. DRS open. Now I wonder what the drivers will choose. Will they choose high downforce to be quick in sector 1 and 3, or will they choose lower downforce to be quick on the straights? Because you can't really overtake in sector 1. Sector 3 it is possible, but you have to really send it. Now Justin is locking up quite a bit. Oversteer on the exit as well. This doesn't look like a super tidy lap, but he might still improve. Down to the blind turn 14. Doesn't hit the apex, goes out wide and invalidates his lap. That corner is so difficult. Oh, and he goes into the wall. I see you got yourself in, which is nice. Who was on lap? Danny is about to finish his lap. That's a 1/10 improvement, 129.4. Puts him back in P3, jumping Neff. Copy in the Mercedes. Just went purple in sector 2. You could see it for a splash of a second. But he is in the turn 13 180-degree corner. Now only the last corner. Will he be able to jump 2 people? And he does. He goes 4/10 quicker. He jumps Justin. Now that is very close between P3 and P7. It's only like 2/10 of a difference. Less than 2/10. So it's very, very close there.
I think that's it. Everyone else is invalidated.
That's it? Alright. Yep.
That is your starting positions.
So Vexit takes pole with a 129.1. Chenjay is second with 129.2. And P3 is Danny with a 29.4. That's really close in the midfield. From P3 to P all the way to P7. It's really close.
Yeah, I don't think Copy and Justin will be too happy. Obviously, the drivers' standings is very close between the top 3. So, I mean, if Danny wins today and Copy doesn't secure a good amount of points, I think Danny's going to run away with the drivers' championship here.
So this will be very interesting indeed. Then he has to make up, or like if he makes up a podium position, so goes P2 or P1, that will be very good for the championship for him. But I think Copy and Justin both had quite a few invalidations, which is unfortunately very common on this track. So that will be interesting. I wonder if penalties will be another thing.
They weren't too bad in the tier 3 race. I'm not sure how the tier 2 race was earlier. But I'll quickly run through the order of the qualifying. So you got Vexit and his teammate Chen in P1 and 2. You got Danny P3, Nackmeister P4, Harris P5, Copy P6, Justin P7, Timo in P8, Dane in P9, Larson P10, Bance in 11th, Pixel 12, Tipsy in 13th, Rafondes in 14th, and then Dragon, who didn't set a time, in 50th.
And that will be our starting grid. Now I wonder if it will rain in the race, because that might be interesting as well.
Rain
I
would
think
be interesting.
Tier 3 was full wet, or was that
No,
SLR?
Tier 3 was full dry.
I think
That would've been
SLR was
SLR.
full wet.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a Tier 2 race, because assists are on for this race, and there's Tier 2 drivers driving here to just get a fuller grid. So there wasn't a Tier 2 race today.
I reckon when the new game comes out, the tiers will be full, 100%. The new game looks so good. I don't know if you've seen any of the leaked footage and stuff, but it looks really good.
Yeah, the game looks really, really promising. As Danny left the lobby, so I'll just send him an invite real quick. I think I have him.
And it looks like it's going to be... I've got Danny if you need me to invite. But it's looking like it's going to be dry as they line up for the formation lap.
I invited the other Danny by accident, so I do not have him on my friends list.
I'll quickly ping him an invite.
But the drivers are now on their formation lap. It looks like it is gonna be dry. It doesn't look like it's gonna be wet further up the race neither, because the sky is very, very clear. So what kind of
We've got a
strategies do
couple
we
of hard
expect
runners
here?
as well. Well, I mean, when soft medium is possible, I think. I can't remember what I did in tier 3. I think the soft medium is possible, but you have to get to about lap 11 or lap 12 on the softs. The hards are very slow around this track. They are, I think, about 4 seconds slower a lap compared to the softs when they're at the optimum temperature. So hards aren't the quickest. Higher mediums, definitely they're preferred. And yeah, I think it's soft medium, or you can go medium soft, which I reckon you'll see bands Tipsy and Dragging try and do. But yeah, the safe bet is soft hard, but soft medium is so much quicker.
Yes, the softs are really a powerhouse on this track. So, I think we will see the top 10 pulling away on the first stage of the race, and then the medium runners catching up slowly.
Yeah, I
Towards the
reckon
end of
if
the tire
Vance can
life.
keep up with Larson and stay within his DRS for the first stint, he'll be in a very good position to maybe even pull a podium out of this race. Obviously, the alternative strategies mostly quicker on every track, and it's pretty good on this track as well. So, if Vance can keep up with Larson, we could be on for an interesting podium.
That will be interesting. I think the reverse strategy might be quite a bit quicker if you can keep the pace, because in the end you will have lower fuel, so less tire wear on the softs, and also you could just go quicker because the car is lighter. So that might be interesting towards the end there. If the medium runners and the hard runners can just stay in the DRS, they might have a very good chance of a good position in the points. But all the drivers are now lining up, and it's 1 lights, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4, 5 lights, and it's lights out, and away we go with no delay actually. So that's the first time. The Renault got a really good start. I think Danny went all the way back. That might have been his AI, but Neckmeister is now up the inside of Jonathan. Let's see, Harrod's got a really good start. That's Nev, but he stays behind Neckmaster. Everyone, there is a little bit of side-by-side action, but everyone slots into their grids now. I think Danny has dropped all the way to P12 from P3.
Yeah, Danny's in his car. I think maybe just some issues, or he's letting the people go ahead. But it was a good move from Justin into the first turn on Timo, I think it was. But yeah, Danny's fallen right down the order, down to P12, so he needs to try and get back up the field.
And Justin went down the inside of Copy, but Copy got the better exit onto the straight. So these two are fighting for P5 currently. The grid flying past. So I think that what Danny had is he couldn't take the control of his car until the lights went off. And that's why he dropped so many positions. So
Yeah,
he has
maybe.
quite a bit of ground to make up.
Well, that'll be interesting to see what Danny can do from the back then. As he's on the soft tyres, he's just looking for the move there on Tipsy down the inside. A little bit of rubbing, but Tipsy gives him enough room. They're now side by side into sector 3. So Tipsy's got the inside line, and I think Danny's still got the pace around the outside. He gets around Tipsy. That was a nice move there from Danny on the racing point.
As Vexit is still leading with a 7-10 gap in front of Chenjay. And that's... Oh, never mind, that's just the standings bugging out for me. As Danny is a ghost again. So, does Danny have connection issues, is what I'm thinking?
Maybe he's just dropped down to 15th. He won't be too happy, but this is what Copy and Justin need then. They need to get the most out of this race now. If Danny's having a few issues, this will bring it closer for the last 2 races. But I was just looking at Bance, and Bance is in a very good position here. He's in between 2 soft runners, so he's going to keep the DRS as long as he can stick within a second of Dane in front of him. But Larson's stuck behind him, so even if he does drop off from Dane and he lets Larson in front, I'll be able to use Larson for the DRS. So Bance is in a very good position on those mediums at the minute.
Yeah, he is in a very good position indeed, as it says DRS is available, but obviously it's not, so the game is having a bit of a seizure at the moment. As it doesn't know what to do. Danny is back in P11, so I think that's just sorted out itself. So he's trying to get past Larson now into sector 3, gets a little bit closer. as both the Alfa Romeos already pulled away from Neckmeister's currently in P3. The standings...
It's on the time thing, it's about 0.8 of a second, but I don't think that's true.
I think it needs to update because it had a bit of a problem. I think it will update as everyone goes past the finish line. Yep, there it is. 1.6 seconds of a gap. The Alfa Romeos have pulled already from P3.
Yeah,
Now Danico making the move on Larsen down the inside into turn 1. And he's passed.
It's a nice easy move from Danny there. Now to get Bans, who's on the medium, so he needs to catch him at the right point in the track or he's going to get stuck behind. He'll have the DRS on the next straight as long as he can get a good exit. He should be able to fly past as he works his way back up the order. And it looks like Timo's actually made a mistake there. He's dropped off a little bit from Justin, making that gap 1.4. So I'll not have DRS on this next straight, which will put him in a bad position with Dane right behind him. Same with the Renault driver. And Harris, who's now going to look for a move on the AlphaTauri for P3. Goes wide, leaving all the space in the world. Pulls back in front for the turn. It's a nice easy move from the Renault.
That was a nice move indeed, using the DRS to his advantage. Getting past the AlphaTauri of Neckmeister into a podium position. And I wonder if he's gonna be able to make up some ground to the Alfa Romeos in front, who've already built a 2.6 second gap. And they're very close together, they're within a tenth of each other. Chenje goes wide. That might have been a track warning, not sure about that.
Yeah, I was watching them through Sector 2 and Sector 3. They're actually side by side for a fair bit of it. So these guys are racing each other. They're not letting each other go as Cheng goes for the overtake there. A little bit of contact, but he still gets through. An easy move for him. And Danny's now looking for the move on Bans as well with the DRS. Run the long way around, but gets in front before the turn. That moves Danny up to P9. So he's now his way to go chase the Williams driver of Dane, who's 1.2 seconds up ahead. So if he can take a little bit more time, we'll have the DRS for the straight as Pixel jumps into the pits for the mediums. So he's going for the 2-stop.
So I don't know if Pixel started on the hards, but if he did, he obviously didn't like how those tires felt, or he must have gotten front wing damage.
Quickly check for him. He did start on those hards.
So he either didn't like how they felt, or he had some form of a damage issue. But now the DRS train is starting to form, although there is a little bit of a gap. Dane now going for the overtake on Timo on the inside. Timo sticks it around the outside, he's still there, but Dane is now finally passed into Sector 3.
That's a bit of reason between those guys as the front two, the Alfa Romeos, still fighting each other. They're getting really close, and I mean a little bit of contact off the DRS zone earlier on nearly took Vexer out. But yeah, the Alfa Romeos still gaining that little bit of a gap from the Renault driver whilst they're fighting each other. And there's a yellow flag. I think that's Bans who's spun.
It is. Bans having front wing damage as well on the right side of his wing.
I think maybe a bit of contact with Larsen, but that's not good on the medium strategy. He's now going to have to switch that up as he jumps into the pits. I'll keep an eye on him to see what tyre he goes for.
I'm back on board with Jonathan Chen, who's still following his teammate. They're going into Sector 2 now. I think these two will be battling for the entire race.
Yeah, Bans is jumping onto the hard tyres, so he's looking to go for the end, which is possible. We saw it happen in Tier 3, so it's just a really slow tyre to be on, and Bans needs to have a really good pace on those hards if he wants to get anything out of this race now. As Danny's right on the back of his Ferrari teammate here. He'll have the DRS.
As Chenje tries to go around the outside, doesn't make a stick. Now on board with Danico, going around the inside of Timo. Timo looks like he braked a bit earlier, just let Danny go. Didn't want to to hold him up. And Danny is up to P8 now. Trying to
see how hard Danny's pushing as well. 30% ERS in that Ferrari, and the other car's rocking about 60, 70. So I'm going to guess what you said earlier on about him not being in the game connected was probably true, and he's just using everything he's got now to try and get back up the field before the second stint starts.
definitely trying to make up as much ground as he possibly can on these soft tires.
Another good point there is the Renault now 1.2 seconds behind the Alphas. So even though they're fighting, the Renault, yeah, starting to catch up now. Maybe the two Alphas need some team coordination there to try and get a bigger gap instead of fighting each other every lap. Renault, yeah, starting to catch up. Is Harris.
Yes, he is. He's trying to stay as close as possible with them. Of course, the battling between the two Alfa Romeos did lose them quite a bit of time. But I think they're just having a little bit of fun, trying to make it interesting for each other. And not just driving a train with each other. Tipsy Bob was now the first one to get a 3-second time penalty for track limits. He was currently in P12. Not really battling anyone. He's trying to catch Dragon. He has a 1.2 second gap. Who are really close together. Justin and Copy are still following each other. And I think that's Danny who's gonna try to go overtake on Dane. No, he's not. He's a bit too far. But he is close on his gearbox, so he might go for the overtake on the main straight. Now, it is possible to overtake in Sector 3, but you really have to send it up the inside. Which is a very risky move. You really have to be super close to try and go for it.
Yeah, through Sector 3, you need to really trust the driver next to you, as well as it's very easy to make contact, especially in Sector 3. As it looks like one of the Hasses has spun. I think that's Rafael Rafondes. He's on the hard tyres, so really struggling with those hards. As we said earlier on, the hards are a really bad tyre around it. It's like Chen was looking for the move on Vexit there, but just wasn't close enough into turn 1. And yeah, the Hash driver once again has spun on those hard tyres.
And Danico now passed Dane the Dangerous into turn 1. So Danny already up to P7 from last. So he's really making up ground. He's really pushing as hard as possible. He's now trying to catch Justin, who's 2.6 seconds ahead. So he has quite a bit of time. Quite a bit of a gap to catch. But I think he might go for a cheeky undercut. Try to undercut his rivals. Now Dragon also gets a penalty, also a medium runner. So Tipsy and Dragon are on the same amount of time penalties now.
Well, there's a good point about the undercut though. The top 3 in the driver's standings currently in 5th, 6th and 7th as the Hash driver that spun again at the start of Sector 2 there. But Dane nearly going into the rear of Danny there. In 7th, broke really late and locked up.
Now who is close? Copy and Justin have been close for pretty much the entire race. But it doesn't look they're interested in overtaking each other. They both have DRS, they're both saving a bit of fuel, saving a bit of energy. Probably for the second stint, as we have the first guys going in. They will probably go for the hard tires. That's Chen J, Harris and Nackmeister, who are all going in.
All the going for the 2-stop strategy, which I don't think is very fast, but these guys probably know better than me, as Chen is jumping onto the hards, Harris onto the hards. Yeah, they're all jumping onto the hard tyre, which is interesting. The soft medium is very possible around there and is a lot quicker.
It will be interesting what strategies the drivers choose. Of course, there's two main strategies, the soft hard and the soft medium, but will the drivers be confident enough to stretch those softs for 3 more laps to go on the medium tires? Because punctures are a big thing. Danny gets a 3-second time penalty now by a bit of oversteer in Sector 2. So that might cost him a position if he won't be careful and if the rest doesn't get any penalties. Else is in a battle. Ixel gets a penalty as well, the other McLaren. So both the McLarens have penalties now. Not really much going on at the moment, just drivers following each other, but Jonathan is now overtaking Tipsy. I think Tipsy just let him go because he knew that Jonathan would overtake him anyway, but it's kind of a weird place to let someone go. The start of Sector 3. Jonathan Chen now up to P9, and I think Vexit is continuing. The guys in front are continuing, so they will probably try and go for the soft medium.
We have a battle for P13, sorry, as Pixel and Refunders are side by side. It was a really nice lunge from Pixel on the end of the DRS thing and the DRS straight, and got a nice move on the House driver. And yeah, the House looked down the inside there, but decided better of it. Nice move from Pixel there to get into P13. Got a 20-second gap now to make to Nagmeister up in P12, but if a safety car comes out, hopefully Pixel can get back into the race.
The safety car would be interesting, especially towards lap 13, 12. Nagmeister gets a penalty, who's currently in P12. He's one of the top runners, so that might cost him towards the end. Of course, if the soft medium guys won't pull such a big gap. Let's see who's close together.
I'm just looking at the gaps between Chen and Vexit, and I mean, Chen's actually going quicker on those hard tyres than what Vexit is on those softs. So that's, I guess those softs are really, really dead at the minute. Obviously, if Vexit goes for the soft mediums will be a lot quicker at the start. I think a pit stop around here is about 20 seconds. So if Vexit pits, he will come out about 4 seconds behind his Alfa Romeo teammate. I think that's Timo that's just jumped into the pits in the Ferrari. So is he going early for the soft medium, or is he going to go for hards as well? I don't think you'd stay out this long if you were going for the hards.
He is going for the mediums. That's the Ferrari pit crew with the medium tire. And he is going for the mediums. So that's a very early pit stop for the mediums, but so is Larson going in, who's also going for the mediums. Now that is pretty early for the medium tires. So these guys are going for a bit of a high risk strategy in terms of punctures. They might get one towards the end, let's hope they won't. But it will be a higher chance for them to get a puncture compared to Vexit, who might box this lap. Or maybe next.
And you can see how much of a gap those that pitted for the hards earlier on have actually made, as Timo was 3 seconds behind Nagmeister on lap 5. He's now 5 seconds behind and he's just pitted, so the soft tyres are really dying compared to those hards. But where will Vexit come out in this order when he pits for those medium tyres? And how big of a gap can he make back before the end of the race?
If the pit stop is 20 seconds, he will come out right next to Harris in the Renault, but Vexit now is going into the pit lane. So lap 10, the leader is pitting, and I think Copy is following, so is Justin. Will Danny follow? Danny does follow as well. So all the other soft drivers are going into the pits for their pit stop onto the medium tire.
I wonder if that means they'll come out closer to where Timo is then. Well, I mean, Timo's only now in Sector 3, and Vexit a little bit of lag there. Yeah, there goes Dragon and Chen as they fight into turn 1. A little bit of contact pushes Dragon out wide, and Chen goes up into first place.
Now look how close Danny is to Justin. Justin really got held a lot in the pit lane, and Danny is right behind him. I think the gap is less than a second. So I think Danny gained more than a second in the pit stops on the Red Bull of Justin.
And Copy is right on the back of Tipsy as well. Tipsy on the 10-lap-old mediums. So is Dragon. So obviously they're on the alternative strategy, and Tipsy got spun around earlier on with some wing damage.
I think that was Bance that got spun earlier around. I think Tipsy has not boxed yet. So
yeah,
Tipsy
I think you are right. I mean, Dragon's in a good position here. He's up in P2, started last.
Justin and Copy have touched on the straight, and now Justin makes the move past. Danny tries to go around the outside of Copy. Justin off track, stays in front of Copy. They're going side by side in Sector 3. Let's go on board with Danny and see how this goes from his POV. They are still side by side. A little bit of touching there. They're still side by side in turn 12, now into turn 13. Copy decides to let Justin go for just now. Danny go right on the gearbox of Copy. So these three are super close together. And they're all catching Tipsy. which will also be interesting, meaning they all will have DRS.
This could be very good for Justin. If he can get in front of Tipsy, that'll leave a car in between him and Copy as he looked for it, but decided better of it on the move. It's a very good exit. He's maybe looking around the outside of Tipsy before the S's. He's boosting. He's in front. They're still side by side. Oh, Tipsy backs out of that. Justin gets through. What a move from Justin and the Red Bull. But now Justin's got a car between him and Copy, so he needs to use this clean air to his advantage and get as big of a gap as he can before Copy, well, as we say, that actually looks for the move and gets past Tipsy, and so does Danny as well. I think Tipsy might have... I think now Tipsy pulled to the side to let them go. So Justin not getting as big of an advantage as he would have liked, as Vexit gets past Dragon as well on the DRS straight.
And now Danico making the move on Copy, as Copy does not have DRS. So Danny is passed into P7. And now there's a big train behind them. But Danny will try to catch Justin. And as we were commentating that, Vexit is already 1.3 seconds behind his teammate. So he has made up a lot of ground on his teammate on those medium tires.
And the pace on those mediums, like I said, compared to the hards, is so quick, and the hards are, even though they last a long time, they're just so slow compared to the mediums, as Vexit sets the fastest lap of the session at 1:33.3.
And Danny is already in the DRS of Justin. So he has caught up quite a bit as well. But in the back, I think Timo and Dane are both trying to catch Copy going into Sector 1. They are all very close. The midfield is really close together, as Vexit already in the DRS of his teammate. So I think Vexit will now just pull a gap once he overtakes his teammate on the straight. Let's have a look at that real quick. Will he be able to overtake him here? I don't think so. I think he's just a bit too far away. He will not be able to make that stick, so let's go on board with Danny, who's behind Justin. Justin looks like he gets the better exit. Danny chooses to keep his ERS, not use it all.
I'm just looking at the time gap between Dragon and Harris, and even though Dragon's on 12-lap old mediums, he's nearly matching the pace, if not a little bit quicker than the hard runner behind him. So yeah, 12-lap old mediums still matching the pace of the brand new hards. Really shows how good you need to be on those hards if you want to maintain a decent pace and try race people. But yeah, the medium tire is so much faster on this track compared to the hards.
The hards really do not look like a pleasure to drive on. But it looks like Jonathan Chan is now starting to push a little bit more as his teammate is getting closer. The
Copy's dropped out of the DRS zone of Danny, so he's boosted on the straight to try to get back within that second. But Danny and Justin could now start to pull away from Copy, which will leave Copy under pressure from Timo behind. As yeah, he's still 1.2 seconds out, so he needs to try and make a bit more time here before he gets to Sector 2, or he's going to start to lose the front pack.
Oh, it looks like Danny is gaining in Sector 1, so that might mean that Danny has a bit more aero than Justin. Which could also be the reason that Justin is quicker on the straight. Oh, Danny does brake a bit later, trying to be as close as possible. Pixel getting another 3-second penalty.
Copy doesn't get the DRS, but Timo behind him does.
Danny going for the overtake on Justin now, and he's passed. So Danny up to P6. But Justin will maybe try and get him back on the other straight. Both the Alfa Romeos, they're very close together now.
Looking at the ERS on a lot of cars as well, Justin's got about 50%, and a few of the other drivers who were falling out of the DRS earlier on, like Timo, Copy and Danny, are all on 20. So Justin has a lot more to play with here compared to the other guys, and Copy just jumping in within the second now. I'm not sure if he'll get DRS on the main straight there, he doesn't. So Copy's still using all of his ERS to try and get within that second gap to gain that DRS. There's Vexit's 4 attempts on the back of Chen now. just starting sector 2. Got a 6-second gap now to Dragon, who hasn't pitted yet, down in 3rd place, and Harris is right on the back of him with his fresh hards. So the medium pace has really dropped off after those 2 laps. The gap was 1.9. It's now just 2/10.
So on board with Vexit. Vexit dropped back a little bit. Doesn't look like he's using his ERS here. But Kamala Harris just turned on his ERS for a split second. Decides to pass Dragon on just DRS, not using his energy. And he makes the move stick. Up into P3 he goes. Now Timo, I think, is side by side with Dane, and he is passed. Actually, he was defending his position from Dane. So Dane and Timo are fighting for P9. With Dane having a little bit of a look down the inside, but decides to stay behind. Rafonda's DNF'd, left the session, DNFing in the pit lane. Chose to not finish the race. Very unfortunate for him.
Danny's actually, I was looking at Dragon. Dragon's in a good position. I mean, he's got to do, I think it's 2 more laps at least on those mediums before he can go to hards. Obviously the pace isn't as great, but if he can stick within a second to Harris in front of him, he can maintain the DRS and get pulled down sector 2 and the main straight. Sorry, Timo actually side by side with Dane into the first turn. They're still side by side as it comes to the S's.
And Dane backs out a little bit after, I think, a tiny bit of contact with Timo. Not sure about that. But he will... I think Dane will get him on the straight coming up now after the hairpin. Also, Vexit very close on his teammate Chen. Goes around the outside. They break at the same time. Vexit on the outside. Pushed out a little bit by his teammate, but that's all fair game. In sector 3 now. They're still super close together. And I think Timo has been overtaken by Dane. They're still side by side. Timo stays in front. Dane around the outside. Tries to go down the inside now for the next corner. They're still side by side. The whole sector 3. They're side by side. Now into turn 11. Turn 12. Timo stays in front. So those two are really close together on pace. Timo now gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. That might not be very good. Vexit's still behind Chen. And now I think Dane will have another attack ready. Dane, a lot of ERS to use. Turns on the overtake button. Tries to attack Timo. Will he go down the inside? It looks like he will. Timo goes slightly defensive. Braking a bit later. But I think Dane has the move done. No, they're still side by side. Side by side in sector 1. Timo having the inside. Stays in front. So these two are really, really battling hard for the P9 position.
Yeah, Dane isn't giving up on that 9th position. I'm just looking at all the midfield and everyone behind Danny within half a second of each other. But Danny will have to pit at the end of this lap, otherwise he's going to lose way too much time. He lost to about 2 seconds. Sorry, Vexit actually looking for the move down on Chen into that turn there at the end of the DRS straight, and he gets the move done, and I don't think Chen's going to try and attack back. So yeah, Vexit up into P1.
And Neckmeister passed VE Dragon after straight. So Neckmeister on the hards is actually going pretty quick compared to the medium runners. But Danny now on the back of Dragon will probably overtake him as soon as possible. Of course, Danny will have more pace than Neckmeister on those tires. But will he be able to overtake him? As we saw that Dane and Timo really having trouble to overtake each other. And I think that's Dragon pulling into the pit lane, going for the softs. Now he will be very quick on the softs.
Yeah, he needs to make a lot of time, but he should come out in front of the 2 racing points. So we'll see how much time he can make to the midfield. He's got a, I don't know if he's got a 3-second time penalty or not. He has 6 seconds worth of time penalties, so he needs to make a lot more time if he wants to get any moves done, as Timo and Dane's still fighting.
We have still have a lot of people fighting in the midfield. Dragon gets another penalty. That's pretty unfortunate for him, as he has 6 seconds now. But those softs are really quick compared to all the other tires. So he will be making up a lot of ground compared to Larson, who is, I think, 10 seconds in front of him. Actually, we can't see the gap, so that's unfortunate. But Danny now has 0 ERS, tries to go for the overtake on Neckmeister. Brakes later, locks up, but has the move done. Neckmeister now coming back with the switchback. But looks like Danny will stay in front. Neckmeister trying another switchback now. But Danny has made the move stick, goes semi-defensive into turn 11. And has the move done for P4. Now, of course, Danny does have that 3-second time penalty, so that might be interesting towards the end, as he is one of the only people up front on the mediums who has that penalty.
Yeah, that could be interesting. He needs to drop, well, gain 3 seconds on Copy and Justin at least to gain those extra points for the Drivers' Championship. But Chen is still keeping up with Vexit up and at the top. Even though he's on those hard tyres, he's maintaining that gap to Vexit. So the fight for P1 is still on. 9 laps left to go. And Dragon is right on the back of Larson. 4 temps into turn 1.
You can just see how much more grip Dragon has compared to Larson. On the exit, Dragon decides to back out. Chooses to wait a little bit for a safer overtaking opportunity. Let's see, will the guys in front overtake each other? I don't think they will. I don't think the midfield... There's too much of a DRS train to really overtake each other. Because in Sector 1 they have dirty air, and then on the straight everyone pulls a bit of a gap to each other. Not being able to overtake that well. But Dragon is now already past Larson.
Justin's still got 50% ERS, and he can get out of this DRS train if he wants to get out of it, but I think he's going to leave it way too late. He needs to use the tyres and use that ERS early before it becomes too late and he can't do anything. He's right on the back of Neckmeister.
Now onto the main straight. They all still have DRS besides Danico, but Danny seems to keep himself in front. Justin has a lot more ERS compared to Neckmeister. Neckmeister only has 20%, whereas Justin has 60%. So I think Justin is just waiting for a good opportunity where he has a good run on Neckmeister. Copy now getting a 3-second time penalty. So
and
Copy
Harris
now with a penalty.
Also picking up a 3-second time penalty.
So a lot of people getting penalties now. The only people without penalties are the top 2. So both the Alfa Romeos, Justin and Larson. The rest all have penalties. I think some might even have 6 seconds. Dragon even has 9 seconds. Tipsy has 6 seconds, and Pixel also has 6 seconds. The rest only have 3 seconds. But still, those 3 seconds can still cost a lot of time. Now Neckmeister goes defensive on the attack of Justin. Justin around the outside. Tries to keep it around the outside. Has the inside for next corner now. Neckmeister braking a bit later. Justin still on the inside. Now is the outside for turn 11. They're still side by side. Justin tries to go for the switchback. It's now on the outside of turn 12. Neckmeister stays in front though. Really good battling between these two. But Neckmeister doesn't have much ERS as his red light is blinking, which means he has less than 10%, whereas Justin has 40%. So Justin might be able to overtake him on this straight. Neckmeister deploying everything he has to try and stay in front.
Justin didn't deploy anything there, so I think he's trying to play games with Neckmeister. We'll probably look for the move on the next straight. But 40% still, Justin. His Dragon gets the fastest lap at 1:33.1. He's gained 5 seconds on Larson in the last 2 laps. He's got 7 seconds to make to catch Timo. As you were saying with penalties earlier, Justin's in a very good position here to jump up a few spots based on those penalties. So as long as he doesn't pick one up for the last 7 laps, Justin could be beating Danny, and that could help him with the points for the driver's standards.
Now he has the DRS. Neckmeister using everything again. Justin now deploying his battery. It looks like he's deploying it all. Look at the top speed. Neckmeister going semi-defensive, pushing Justin a bit out wide, but Justin breaks later. Hits the apex, gets moved on. Neckmeister pulling the switchback, gets a good exit. Is around the outside now. Justin on the mediums, does get better traction, and Justin gets the move done. He's now trying to catch Danico, currently in P4. Neckmeister getting another 3-second time penalty, so Neckmeister now has 6 seconds, but pretty much puts him out of the fight on the midfield here.
I don't know if you saw either. Coming out of Sector 2 into Sector 3, the two Alfa Romeos were side by side, and Chen actually jumped up into P1 on those hard tyres. So he's enjoying those hard tyres a lot more than what Vexit is those mediums, but they're still racing each other. They were side by side, and I think it was Vexit that went a little bit sideways off the track. But yeah, Chen's up into the lead of this race now with 6 laps left to go.
So that will be interesting between those two, as those two are fighting for the race win. But now still the train from Danny up until Copy, the fight for P4. They are slowly catching Harris, slowly but surely. And I'm actually surprised by how quick the guys on the hards are going, that they can keep their pace stable enough to stay with the medium boys.
Yeah, I mean, the mediums will be, I think they're dead around lap 14 to 16, so they've got 4 more laps before they start to die off, and the hard people pitted early, so maybe the hards will start to die off at the same time as the mediums, so they'll start to even out on the pace. But Dragon isn't making as much time up as as I would have thought he would. I think he's gained 2 seconds within the last 2 laps on Timo, and even if he gets past Timo, he still needs to make 6 seconds, I think it is, because of the penalties. So maybe the alternative strategy, not the best strategy here.
Yeah, it might be not working well for Dragon. Also with the penalty situation, it's suboptimal, to say it like that. Having 9 seconds is something you really don't want. Now, Neckmeister, I'm surprised by how much he's keeping up with Justin, even through the high downforce sections or the high grip sections. He's really keeping up well. Timo and Dane still fighting for P8 now. They're still within 4 tenths of each other, but Timo is staying behind the whole time. Now, who's that in the pits? That's Larson in the pits, going for the soft. Decides to go for the soft, probably to get the fastest lap.
Vexit might actually make a move on Chen here for P1, as Chen goes really defensive out wide and swings straight back in, and Vex has to react to that. He was boosting a lot on that straight and using the DRS, as he's still looking for the move on Chen. There's a little bit of contact there, whilst they're side by side here through the end of Sector 2. Goes around the outside on the mediums if he can get a better exit. Oh, both go a little bit sideways there, but Chen keeps the P1.
These two are really scrapping hard. Now Copy is 1/10 behind Neckmeister. Copy down the inside of turn 11. Neckmeister gets a better exit, but has no grip on the AstroTurf there. So Copy is passed. Copy into P6 in front of Neckmeister now. Copy will need to catch Justin as soon as possible. And hope that Justin will get a penalty. Because otherwise, even if Copy overtakes Justin and Justin has no penalty, Copy will drop down behind him.
Justin needs to make a lot of time here if he wants to try and secure a podium position. He's about 1.2. He needs to be just behind Danny if he wants to jump Harris, because Harris has a 3-second time penalty as well. So Justin can get his foot down with 4 laps left to go and get right onto the back of Danny. He could secure P3 out of this race.
Both the Alfa Romeos now still super close together. Both of them have quite a bit of ERS. Vexit is using his ERS. Jonathan Chen decides to save it. Chen going defensive. They touch on the straight. Jonathan goes into Vexit. Jonathan loses grip now. Vexit into P1, into Sector 3. So I don't know what happened there with Chen, but just on the straight, he just went into his teammate. Like he didn't see him.
It's lucky that Vexer didn't die there. And you know what Codemaster physics are like, a little bit of contact, you can go flying. But I think Chen assumed Vexer just went back to the racing line, but he was actually holding the defensive line into that turn. But yeah, both of them still going. Luckily, Vexer into the lead, but Chen will have the DRS and 50% ERS to play with into the first turn. Vexer's going to go defensive on the inside line. So again, another little bit of contact there, pushes Chen out wide. So Vexer is maintaining the lead for now. As Dragon's actually caught up to the back of Timo now, so those soft tyres now starting to work for Dragon. He has the DRS on the back of Timo, and Ain right in front of Timo as well. So what can Dragon do to get past both of these guys with 3 laps left to go?
Now Chen using his DRS to get as close as possible to Vexit even before the straight. And I think we will see an attack from Jonathan right here on the straight, deploying all of his ERS. Vexit decides to save it, not defending, goes on the defending line, but doesn't use his energy. And Chen is past, Vexit just lets him go. Larsen now setting the fastest lap. Vexit braking a bit later than Jonathan. They're side by side, they're touching wheels, they're wheel banging the whole time. They are really touching each other a lot. Vexer now goes down the inside onto turn 11.
Oh.
Chen turns in. Doesn't leave Vexer any space. Vexer gets a 3-second time penalty now. So that will be a big thing in the fight for the win.
As Timo and Dane are side by side as well, coming out of the DRS straight. As Timo diving down the inside, Dane leaves the space. Pushes him off track a little bit there, and Dragon's looking for the gap. As we'll look for the switchback here. Down the inside of Dane, and Dragon with the better traction than the newer tyres jumps in front of Dane, so Dane losing 2 positions there to Timo and Dragon. As now Dragon will look to attack Timo, but Vexit earlier on that dive on Chen was a bit ambitious. Probably should have waited for the DRS straight, but that 3-second time penalty is probably going to run him out of the race win here as Dragon with the DRS looking down the inside of Timo into turn 1. And Dane brakes very late, picks up some wing damage right into the back of Timo.
Yeah, Dane, it looked like he missed his braking marker, went into the back of Timo and lost to the right side of his front wing. Neckmaster getting another time penalty, which will drop him down a lot now. Very unfortunate for him. Vexit looks like he's also backing a bit out, because he knows with the penalty he won't win the race anyway, unless it would get removed by the stewards if he reports it, but I'm not sure if that would be...
I don't think that'd get removed. It was a bit of an ambitious move, and it was a very late dive as well. I think Chen was allowed to take his line there, but just hard racing between these front two.
Now Copy is right on the back of Justin, but Justin is still no penalty, so Copy can't really do anything here. Then he has to push to pull away from that 3 seconds from Justin. But he doesn't have much ERS to help him do so.
I'm looking at the race director just to check penalties, and it says Chen has 3 warnings, but he hasn't got a penalty, so I'm going to assume that's maybe a game glitch and he's on 2. But with 2 laps left to go, Chen is still very close to picking up a penalty here, so Vexit should still try and race him and try and win this race.
And a big dive from Copy onto Justin. Copy is now passed into turn 1. That was a very, very big dive from Copy from the Mercedes onto Justin, but he made it stick with barely any amount of contact. And what you were saying about free warnings, I think the third one is a warning for crossing the pit lane exit line. Because that just registers as a warning.
Or maybe contact with the car in front. But I mean, Vexit is 8 tenths behind now, so those mediums are starting to drop off, and if Chen does pick up a penalty, he'll only have 1 lap to attack him. But Justin, this isn't good that he's behind Copy. He's got the DRS and not using, he's got no ERS to use, but now if Danny can get a big enough gap, which I think he already has, Justin isn't going to jump Danny because he's not close enough, all within the 3-second gap.
Yeah, Danny is now out of copies, or out of Justin's penalty zone, if I can call that. So Danny will keep P4 for now, but Danny really isn't catching up to Harris on the hards, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, look at the gap between Vexit as well. Those 19-lap-old hards, he's just made the second gap, and he doesn't have DRS anymore, so Chen on those hards is going really quick.
Dano getting a 3-second time penalty. Let's have a look at penalties again.
And Larson actually just getting past Tipsy there after the DRS straight. Managed to get down the inside, and they were side by side there, but Tipsy backs out. So Larson on the fresher softs jumps up to P11. Isn't quite close enough to secure a point out of this race, but...
So it looks like Timo will jump Dragon on penalties if Dragon doesn't gain enough time. Because Dragon has 9 seconds of penalties and Timo only 3. But if Timo stays within 6 seconds of Dragon, he will get the position for P8.
Justin's low on fuel. He has Nackmeister and the AlphaTauri right behind him. He's not going to try and defend the position as Nackmeister goes down the inside of Justin. Comes to the end of the DRS straight. So close to contact there, but Nackmeister gets in front of Justin. Is Justin going to look for a move? No. Thinks better of it. But Chen come around the second to last turn. Got a 2-second gap to Vexit, so he really gained a lot of pace out of those last few turns and has crossed the line to win the American Grand Prix. And Vexit crossing the line in second. And Harris, I'm not sure what the penalty situation is between second and third, but crosses the line to take third. Danny crosses to take fourth. Don't think Justin's close enough to jump him on penalties. No, Justin jumps up to fifth. Copy sixth, Nackmeister seventh. Shout out to Danny, even with the connection issues at the start of the race, managed to get P4 out of this race. Without the connection issues, could have possibly been up there with first and second. As Timo jumps Dragon. Dragon gets ninth. Dane crosses the line. And with his penalties, doesn't quite jump Dragon, but secures the last point. And then next to cross the line, Larson. 20 seconds behind the rest of the pack. Getting unlucky with a stint, crosses the line to take P11 with no penalties. Good drive from Larson. Tipsy getting P12. Sorry, Bans getting P12. Tipsy 13th. And then last to cross the line will be Pixel, who I think is going for the fastest lap actually. Pitted for the soft. He's 1.1 up on his time. Using all of his ERS and all of his fuel.
And he will come across the line. Will it be the fastest lap? Yes, it will. He got the fastest lap on the last lap of the race. So Pixel with the fastest lap. We'll see what that was in just a second. Dragon getting driver of the day in the McLaren. And
Who says your driver of the day?
My driver of the day, I think that would have to be Danny. Coming all the way from P15 after a connection issue. Back to P4. I don't think there's anyone else who.
I completely agree with you. I think Danny started third, dropped down to 15th, and still got fourth out of this race. If he didn't pick up that 3-second time penalty, which I'm pretty sure he got a warning on the first lap when his AI got pushed off the track. So it's unlucky for Danny. But Larson picking up the fastest lap at 32.3. I'll quickly run through the order. Chen got P1, Vexer got P2, Harris P3, Danny P4, Justin P5, and Copy P6. So the fight for second in the championship is getting even closer. Nackmeister P7, Timo P8, Dragon P9, and Dane in P10. Then you got Larson P11, Bance P12, Tipsy Bob 13th, Pixel 14th, and then you had Rafondes in the Haas, who was really struggling with those hards in his first stint. Paul's retired in the pits.
So that was a very interesting race. So quite a bit of overtaking.
The DRS train was very consistent throughout the whole race. The midfield was always next to each other. But I think, at the start of the race, it was very entertaining seeing some of the drivers getting up and through. And there was so many different strategies today as well. A lot of soft hards, soft mediums, alternative strategies. It was good to see. But yeah, also good to see the two guys at the front, the two Alfa Romeos, fighting the whole race as well.
That was definitely very entertaining to see the leaders or the P1 and P2 drivers fighting for the whole race. But it's interview time, so anyone who will be in general voice free will be down for an interview. So I'm just gonna type that interviews are now live. Alright. So Justin is already waiting in voice chat free for an interview. So let's pull him in and ask him some questions. Hello, Justin.
Hello.
So, how was your race? Of course, fighting for the constructors' positions. Not getting any penalties, which is also one of the only drivers who did that. How did your race go?
I mean, it was decent. Starting 7th with a 29.6. I think that was my PB. Like before this race, it was a 0.8, so that came out of nowhere. And then in the race, I just picked my moments. And then after the pit stops, it was a bit crazy with me copy tipsy, but I tried getting past them as quickly as possible, considering I got held up in the pits. But then with copy, I don't know what happened. I know that I did quite send one after the DRS straight. I missed my braking point. It went a bit wide, then came back on track, and then we had a nice battle. But I don't know if that was bad or whatever. But it was a nice battle. Then I just picked my moments after that and tried cruising to a victory. But then after a bump from copy into turn 1 cost me any chances of getting a 4th. But that's just racing. We're elbows out. Obviously, we're both fighting for the same championship. So getting the edge on copy, who's in P2, is good. But Danny running away again, I don't think it's good for either of us.
Yeah, so I think it was Knackmeister overtaking you towards the end, causing you to lose the valuable time that you could gain on Danny.
Yeah, I lost about 5/10 there, so.
Yeah, very unfortunate, of course, but in the end, it's racing. So on to next week's race. That's gonna be Mexico, I believe. Is it a good track for you, and how are you expecting it to be?
Yeah, Mexico is one of my strongest tracks. Now, do I expect a podium? Probably not, with the likes of Vexit, Chen, Danny, etc. And but hopefully sign off with a good 2 last races.
All right, so yeah, congratulations on, I think it was P5 behind Danny, and good luck next week in Mexico.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Tried to move him out, but he already left. I don't think we have anyone else. I'm just gonna ask again.
I don't mean to be any weird or anything, but Justin's voice is beautiful, man. It's like ASMR.
Yeah, I was well, because I believe he has the French flag in the game, so I was expecting a bit more of a French accent, but
sounds really American.
Yeah, it really does. So we'll just wait a minute here, see if anyone else wants to be down for an interview, and if not, then we're just gonna end it here. And yeah,
cool.
It definitely was a very fun race to commentate on.
Yeah, there was a lot of action. It's a shame the DRS train's such a big thing. Otherwise, I reckon there would have been a lot more fights between everyone. But it was a very good race. Congrats to Chen on the win. Unlucky Vexer. And yeah, I guess we'll see everyone here this time next week for Mexico, the second to last race. I'm going to quickly take a look at the standings. I think Danny needs, I think it's 8 points to secure. He needs 8 points next week to secure the championship for Tier 1. So we'll see what Danny can do in Mexico.
Will be very interesting how it will end up, because next week is the second to last race already. With 2 races left, it is going to be very close in the driver's standings. Of course, Danny fighting for that championship win. He already won the constructors with Ferrari, but now will he be able to take both the championships, the constructor and the drivers? I guess we'll have to wait for that, and no one else is replying for interviews, so I think we are just gonna end it here. So thank you for joining on commentary. It was a very fun race, and yeah, hope to see everyone else back next week.